Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss 3 ways in which Rishi Sunak has exposed global Britain for the sham it is. 3 ways in which it has been made painfully obvious that the UK is no longer considered a major player on the world stage of important international events, and all within the last few days. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel. So, Rishi Sunak attended the G20 in India, with one of his main purposes being to unlock some of the sticking points on a post-Brexit trade deal with the Prime Minister of India. Then we hear that Sunak's meeting with Modi, which was to be at his home, is cancelled, so that the Prime Minister of India can talk to Biden instead. Sunak is then offered a meeting with Modi at a sort of fringe later on. Now, obviously, the US president is always more important than the UK Prime Minister, no matter the political circumstances. But you don't just cancel meetings like this. These meetings are always scheduled well in advance at events like this. For whatever reason, this was Modi slapping Sunak down. And we can all speculate on the reasons, but the actual reasons don't matter. What matters is that the British Prime Minister can be treated like this without consequence. Because what is Sunak's response to it? Was it to say, oh, you don't want a meeting? All right, fine, I'll go and talk to other people. No, it's to continue grovelling for the trade deal, which will be of limited value to the UK, but of course potentially huge value to his wife and father-in-law. But then an announcement from the G20, something of interest, an India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor. This is designed to challenge China's economic reach. It was announced by President Biden, even though the scheme does not directly involve the United States. It's in their geopolitical interest, so they're putting their shoulder behind it. The purpose of the scheme is enhanced trade, including in clean energy, between Europe, the Middle East, and India. The communiqué reads, the United States, India, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, France, Germany, Italy, and the EU announced. So obviously India is mentioned. That's one end of the trade corridor. We also have the larger players in the Middle East and in Europe mentioned. No mention of the UK. Now, it's fair not to get too carried away with the significance of the announcement. In a sense, the project has the potential to be a huge boost to peace in the Middle East by doing exactly what the EU project did for peace in Europe, making trade a unifying factor. But it won't be easy, and the details haven't been worked out yet. The political impetus will need to be serious, and it will need to remain strong for some time before we see anything from this. But it nonetheless represents a major economic project with a lot of the world's major economies behind it, which before Brexit would have had the UK mentioned and fully involved in. Now we're not even part of it. And Keir Starmer made a point of tearing Sunak a new arsehole in Parliament over this yesterday.
There was some important progress at the G20 this weekend. A new partnership for global infrastructure and investment was announced between the US, the EU, India and Gulf states. A partnership to counterbalance China's Belt and Road Initiative, boost economic development, secure supply chains and connect the US, EU and trusted partners in Asia. A much welcome initiative, you might think. So when I looked at the signatories of this new partnership, I was surprised. Something was missing. Where was Britain? Can the Prime Minister explain why the UK has not signed this agreement? This seems remarkable. A new agreement has been reached between major trade blocs to deliver economic security, and Britain is not involved. That's right. I think the Prime Minister owes the House an explanation. Have we been left out, or just decided not to sign?
And well he might. A more clear-cut example of how so-called global Britain is nothing more than a toddler's shit drawing on the fridge door. And this was not the only example of how, if not Brexit directly, but the way the Tories are running Brexit is diminishing our status on the world stage. Rishi Sunak is not going to attend the UN Climate Summit later this month. The reason is that he was reportedly warned that he may not be included in some of the high-level meetings because the UK is no longer regarded as taking climate change seriously. Now, Sunak obviously won't be able to admit that he's not attending because he's butthurt. It would make him look both impotent and petulant at the same time. So he will have to fall back on something like scheduling conflicts. But when many target voters are already unhappy with Sunak's rolling back of net zero commitments, his decision not to attend a global climate conference will be a very bad look. Isn't he basically saying that it's not important? I mean, he attended the G20. Why? What will he say he got from it? Well, he could say it's important to go for those face-to-face talks with other global decision makers and we'll see the results later. Okay, fine. So he can also attend a UN summit on the climate emergency to do the same thing then, can't he? It's really this simple, and I'd love journalists to put it to him. It's all right, Keir Starmer put it to him. Rishi Sunak can just ignore those questions in the House of Commons. Get a journalist to put it to him. Either he is not attending because he has downgraded the UK's status with his failures of climate policy, in which case he has made the UK a smaller player on the world stage. And this is the most important policy area of humanity. Or he's not attending because he doesn't care. Doesn't matter which it is. Neither is a good look for the voters he needs to attract. Instead, we're sending Oliver Dowden, just to add insult to injury. We'd have looked less ridiculous sending Larry the cat. You know how we keep asking Brexiteers for a tangible benefit of Brexit, and all they either do is mutter or lie? Maybe we need to be more insistent and more specific. So they keep claiming that our global influence is improving, but the evidence is clearly counter to that view. In just the last few days alone, the UK's downgraded status has been shoved right in our faces 3 times. Having a scheduled meeting with the Indian Prime Minister cancelled. Being missed off a major economic project announcement that has Europe at one end and has the United States involved even though it's not directly involved in the scheme. And now not attending a major UN climate summit because it would have exposed Sunak's further diminishing impact on the world stage. Global Britain is like every other Tory lie. They changed the name to make it sound like the opposite of what it is. So they changed the name of the minimum wage to living wage to make it sound like, oh, there's enough money to live on. And then properly stopped it being anywhere near enough to live on. NHS track and trace to make it sound like the respected NHS were involved when they had nothing to do with it and received none of the utterly wasted tens of billions of pounds of funding. And Global Britain, which may as well be on the moon for all the connect we have with the world these days. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.